AskReddit by Les Domed. What's the fastest way someone has ruined your opinion of them? Dated a woman a while back. We were talking on the phone as she was driving home. She pulled into a fast food place to get something, and I got an earful of her treating the employees there like shit. How you treat people you don't necessarily have to be nice to says a lot about you. I hung up on her and never spoke to her again. Edit change the wording to hopefully make it a bit less vague. I was always told that the way a guy treats the servers on a first date is how he will treat you. Very true, and goes both ways. OFC. I met some, now former, co-workers out for dinner one night, and after the first round of drinks, one of them's husband showed up to join us. I had met him a few times before and had always thought he was a nice enough dude. Laid back, good conversation, chill. He ordered lemon pepper wings, and the server brought out ones that had dark red sauce on them, so clearly not the correct flavor. No big deal, right? Well, this guy acted like the server had spit in his face or something. He made a huge stink, demanded the manager, and was being so loud that half the restaurant was looking at our table. It was incredibly embarrassing. His wife, my co-worker, just sat there rubbing his back and saying, "Oh, baby, I'm so sorry" to him while he had his tantrum, like he had just watched his dog die or something. It totally put me off both of them. She was not invited to any subsequent dinner meetups. No one wanted to risk that happening again. My wife's stepmom is horrible to wait staff. To the point that the first time I thought it was a one-off. The second time I decided we would never eat out with her again. I met a girl in college and we became friends. I felt sorry for her that she didn't have any friends and was kind of awkward, because I'd been in those shoes too, so I introduced her to my friend circle and things were cool. Then, she calmly informed me that all of them were creeps and pedos. I asked her what the fuck she meant by that, and she told me that they must be, because they were adults. Keep in mind, we were all sophomores in college, who liked comics and cosplay, so they had to be creeps. I turned the car around and brought her right back to her dorm, and immediately told my friends. The irony of it was, she was, and still is, a decade later, obsessed with a certain Ya series. It's Twilight, isn't it? A girl I was dating screamed at her mom. We were about to get down to business, sex, when her mother called. I could hear both sides of the convo. Her mom wanted to know if my girlfriend had accidentally taken her mother's house keys the last time she was staying over at their place. Girlfriend says no, annoyed, without hesitation. Mom asks if she could just check her purse when she had a moment because she couldn't find them anywhere. Girlfriend erupts out of nowhere screaming at her mom, accusing her mom of accusing her, which wasn't what was happening. She hangs up on her mom, who I hear audibly sobbing. Girlfriend then checks her purse and finds the lost keys. Instead of calling her mom, she calls her dad, tells him to come get them on the condition that he doesn't say where he found them. I could barely stand to be in the same room as her after that. I like how you clarified sex in case people thought you were about to start going over the quarterly earnings report. Abusing their pets. Neglecting their kids. That was actually my mother. People would hate her too if they knew her. A girl I was seeing casually called my former roommate a racial slur while I was driving the two of us to dinner. I pulled over, dropped her off on a street corner, then went and got dinner on my own. My old roommate was a huge douchebag. But man, one time I saw him talking to some girl downtown and drove off leaving her with her arms up in shock. He drove a Supra. She got to his car apparently and said, "I thought you were rich." She went to get in the car and he wouldn't unlock it. That was it. He left her. This happened to a friend. In 1973, my friend, who was a teenager and a huge Knicks fan, actually went to the airport to meet the Knicks plane and try to get some autographs. My friend is an Orthodox Jew and was wearing his kippah. The plane came in and my friend was jumping up, calling out the players and waving his autograph book. One player actually came over and was going to take my friend's pen to sign when he spotted the kipper. He dropped the pen and said, "I don't do shit for Jews." How TF do you playing New York and not do shit for Jews? I was hanging out with friends once and got introduced to a friend of a friend, and within minutes this dude was talking about how nice it is to get a break from his annoying wife. Mayo, like, brother, I have barely known you for 5 minutes and you're telling me what a bitch your wife is. Off the get-go I knew this guy was an asshole. Honestly, I cannot stand anyone who trashes on their partner. Immediately a bad person in my mind, cause if you only have bad things to say about them, why TF are you still together? I'm often welcoming to new employees at the company I work for on trips, just to be hospitable. I had a coworker who was the new guy at the time suggest we go get some hookers while on a work trip. He had already creeped out several female coworkers with staring and inappropriate comments, and then he dropped that on me. I could never look at him the same way, and he ended up not lasting long at the company, thankfully. It was weird and I'd never experienced anything like that before or since. Just cause there's a goalie doesn't mean you can't score, aren't you gross? Cheating is pathetic. You were cute but NVM thanks. My ex's dad used to openly gawk and make comments about attractive women in front of his wife and daughter, my ex. Then he would say, "Just cause I'm on a diet doesn't mean I can't look at the menu." Once I was fighting with my boyfriend and I punched him multiple times in the arm. Me, what? That's not nice. No, it was fine. I felt better afterwards. I had no words. It soured my view of her in an instant. I hope she never has access to children. Guy I worked for and knew my whole life kicked TF out of a cat that's only sin was getting near him. I gotta say, people saying they don't like cats animals usually makes me sus. Allergic or just not a pet owner is okay though. Being a complete bitch to servers at a restaurant. I don't care how hot you are. Treating service workers poorly and with entitlement is such a turn off. I briefly dated a guy who, on one occasion, called a waitress a dumb broad for absolutely no reason. Like she didn't do a single thing wrong at all. My opinion of him went down pretty quickly from there. I was pretty good pals with this one dude at work. Good banter, chill as can be and all that. But then I heard him talk about his girlfriend for the first time and how she does nothing around the house and how she's typical for a modern woman because she doesn't do chores. I instantly understood why all the women at work hated his guts, and from that point on I did, too. And to add on to this, he also said therapy is for weak-minded people. I went to therapy for 5 years and it helped me deal with so many things that felt overwhelming before. Thankfully he no longer works there and our workplace is better for it. If all of the women at your workplace hate one guy, there's usually a reason for it. Picked me up for a date, got on the highway, and revved it up to drive over 100 miles per hour, weaving in between cars. I was terrified, tears in my eyes, asking him to slow down and he laughed. It was so fucking scary, I can't even explain it. Literally thought I was going to die. He was going so fast, well over 100 miles per hour, and just weaving between cars. Just terrifying. I took a taxi home and never saw him again. I'd had a crush on him for like 2 years at that point. I never wanted to see him again. What a total piece of shit. I'm glad you're okay. First date. I was walking around a park with a dude with a cold brew. We knew one another socially and had a good rapport and I liked him. It was a nice spring day and I was feeling it. So was he. I let him lead the conversation, which just spiraled into a childhood trauma dump, so I tried to redirect, which didn't work. He accused me of being insensitive and selfish. I keep my phone on silent, so I made a ring noise with my mouth, pulled my phone out and said, "Oh, that's not an emergency but I should probably tend to it," and left. Later he told a mutual friend how big of an asshole I was, and when I explained my side, the conclusion was, "Well, you're not a therapist." How did you make a ring sound? Like beep beep beep. New male hire at work last week. He jumped into a conversation between two women at work who were debating if a guy customer was rude to both of them but nice to the male boss because he was sexist or just respected authority. New hire was not present for any of the customer interactions but told the women that it was definitely not sexism. Oh man, I bet they were so happy he was there to explain their experience to them. Took a screenshot of what I had every right to assume was a private conversation when I was having a meltdown and shared it with a mutual friend, more his friend than mine. Any faith and trust I had in him just died. I've stopped sharing with anyone I know because of things like this. I don't trust anyone with anything personal. There was a guy in my church I was really into until I discovered he had one of those fake ball sacks hanging from his car. That killed it for me right there. Hear me out though, it's better than having a real ball sack hanging from his car. My old supervisor was one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He taught me loads. I had massive respect for him and we worked as a team. He was pretty old so I did all his heavy lifting for him. We were welder fabricators. One day in conversation he told me he doesn't believe in evolution and dinosaurs were a hoax. One of my cousins said this to me a few months back, totally offhand like they just assumed I agreed with them. I was too stunned to react. He slept with raped an underage girl. Then tried to say it was on sensual, secamo me. He was married and in his mid-40s. Pedis love to act like teenagers have so much power and authority that grown-ass adults just can't say no to them. If we're gonna follow their pathetic logic. After discovering they are a compulsive liar, pretty quickly. Like what is real there? I don't want to find out at this point. Finding out how my brother was treating his ex-wife. I helped her file for divorce and he still hates meal mayo. Plenty of friends coming at me with pyramid scheme wares. Someone who is a fan of making mean comments about others and saying it's a joke, then does it again.